Welcome to Twisted Heartstrings. Welcome to my channel, Twisted Heartstrings. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Please listen to my story until the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. The invitation that started it all. The cream-colored envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a ghost from my past. I stared at it for a full minute before my hands stopped shaking enough to open it. The golden lettering announced what I had known was coming, but still wasn't prepared for. Daniel Morrison and Sarah Chun request the honor of your presence at their wedding. My ex-fiancé and my former best friend. Getting married. And they had the audacity to invite me. I set the invitation down carefully, as if it might explode. 2 years had passed since the day my world collapsed. 2 years since I walked into my own apartment and found them together. 2 years since everything I believed about love and friendship turned to ash. But I wasn't the same woman anymore. The woman I used to be. 5 years ago, I was Emma Richardson, a hopeful 25-year-old interior designer with dreams bigger than my small apartment. I had everything planned out. Daniel and I would get married, buy a house in the suburbs, maybe start a family in a few years. Sarah would be my maid of honor, just like we'd promised each other since college. Life was simple. Life was happy. Life was a beautiful lie. Daniel worked in commercial real estate, charming and ambitious. He had a smile that made you believe everything would work out, a confidence that drew people to him. When he proposed after 3 years of dating, I cried happy tears for an entire evening. Sarah helped me celebrate with champagne and late-night planning sessions about the wedding. Sarah had been my best friend since freshman year of college. We'd shared an apartment, shared secrets, shared everything. She was the sister I never had. When I got engaged, she was almost as excited as I was. Or so I thought. The day everything shattered. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March. I remember because Tuesdays were usually my late days at the design firm, but a client meeting got canceled. I decided to surprise Daniel at home. Maybe we could order takeout, watch a movie, enjoy a quiet evening together. I used my key to let myself in. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel's jacket hung on the coat rack. His shoes were by the door. He was home. Daniel. I called out, setting my portfolio bag down. I'm home early. Want to order from that Italian place you love? No answer. I walked toward the bedroom, already planning what movie we might watch. That's when I heard it. A laugh. Soft and feminine. Familiar. My hand froze on the bedroom door handle. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to leave, to not see what I knew I was about to see. But I pushed the door open anyway. They didn't even notice me at first. Daniel and Sarah, tangled together in the bed I shared with him, in the sheets I had washed that morning. Sarah's red dress, the one I had complimented her on last week, was draped over my reading chair. The moment stretched forever and ended too quickly. Sarah saw me first. Her eyes went wide, but there was no shame in them. Only a calculation, a quick assessment of how to handle this situation. Daniel turned, following her gaze. His face went pale. Emma. God. Emma, this isn't. We didn't mean for you to find out like this. Find out. As if this was information he planned to share eventually, just not today. The confrontation. I stood there, frozen. My brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. This had to be a nightmare. Any second, I would wake up in this same bed, Daniel beside me. And this would all be a horrible dream. How long? My voice came out steady. Strange, considering my entire body was trembling. Sarah sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. Still no shame. Just that calculating look. Emma, listen. This just happened. We didn't plan it. How long? I repeated, louder this time. Daniel climbed out of bed, reaching for his clothes. Emma, please. Let's talk about this calmly. You're upset. I understand. But we can work through this. I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bitter and foreign coming from my throat. Work through this? You're in bed with my best friend, and you want to work through it. 6 months, Sarah said quietly. She was watching me like a scientist studying a specimen. It's been 6 months. 6 months. Half a year. While I was planning a wedding, choosing flowers, tasting cakes, she was sleeping with my fiancé. While I was texting her about bridesmaid dresses, she was texting him about secret meetings. Get out, I said. My voice was still calm. Too calm. Both of you. Get out of my apartment. Emma, it's my apartment too, Daniel started. My name is on the lease. I don't care. Get out. The unraveling. They left, eventually. Daniel grabbed some clothes, muttering about needing space to think. Sarah had the decency to look uncomfortable as she gathered her things, but she still didn't apologize. Not really. After they left, I sat on my couch for 3 hours. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at nothing, feeling my entire world reorganize itself around this new, terrible reality. The next few weeks were a blur of logistics and heartbreak. Daniel moved out completely. We had to untangle our finances, our shared belongings, our shared life. Every conversation was torture. Every item divided felt like cutting off a piece of myself. Sarah tried to call me once. I answered without thinking. Emma, I know you hate me right now, but I need you to understand. Daniel and I, we didn't mean for this to happen. We fell in love. Real love. You can't control who you love. I hung up, blocked her number, blocked both their numbers. The social aftermath. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was watching everyone else react to it. Our friend group fractured immediately. Some people sided with me. Others, surprisingly, sided with them. Love is complicated, they said. These things happen. You'll find someone else. As if it was just about finding another boyfriend. As if it wasn't about the two people I trusted most in the world conspiring to destroy everything I had built. I lost more than a fiancé and a best friend. I lost entire social circles. Parties I wasn't invited to anymore because it would be awkward. Mutual friends who slowly stopped calling because maintaining relationships with all of us was too complicated. Even my work suffered. I had partnered with Daniel's company on several projects. Now those contracts evaporated. Clients who knew both of us had to choose sides, and business often went to the more established partner, Daniel. For 6 months, I barely functioned. I went to work, came home, and existed. I ate because my body required food. I slept because I couldn't stay awake forever. But I wasn't living. I was surviving. The turning point. The change came on a random Thursday in September. I was walking past a bookstore and saw a title in the window. Living well is the best revenge. I stopped. Read it again. And something clicked. I bought the book. Read it in one sitting. It wasn't about revenge in the dramatic sense. It was about reclaiming your life, about succeeding so thoroughly that the people who wronged you became irrelevant. But standing there in my apartment, holding that book, I realized something else. I didn't want them to become irrelevant. I wanted them to see exactly what they had lost. I wanted them to understand the magnitude of their betrayal. And I wanted justice. Not the screaming, dramatic kind. The calculated, strategic kind. I started small. I joined a gym. Not to look better for anyone else, but because physical strength helped me feel mentally stronger. I worked with a therapist to process the trauma, to understand that their betrayal said nothing about my worth. I threw myself into my work with renewed focus. The design projects I took on became more ambitious. I started networking aggressively, rebuilding the professional relationships that had crumbled. I took online courses in business management, in marketing, in everything I'd need to build something bigger than myself. The rise. 18 months after the betrayal, I launched my own interior design firm, Richardson Design Company. Small at first, just me and one assistant, working out of a rented office space that was more closet than workplace. But I was good at what I did. Better than good. And now I had something to prove. Clients came slowly at first, then faster. Word of mouth spread. My designs started appearing in local magazines, then regional ones. I hired 3 more designers, then 5. We moved to a larger office space. I dated occasionally, but nothing serious. I wasn't ready. Maybe I would never be ready. Trust was a muscle I had torn completely, and it was taking time to heal. Sarah and Daniel, meanwhile, seemed to be thriving. I saw occasional social media posts through mutual friends' accounts. Smiling photos, vacation pictures, announcements of their engagement. Each photo was a small knife in my chest. But I used that pain, channeled it, let it fuel my ambition instead of destroying me. 2 years later, which brought me back to this moment, standing in my now beautiful apartment, holding their wedding invitation, 2 years wiser and infinitely stronger. The old Emma would have torn up the invitation and tried to forget they existed. The old Emma would have stayed home, cried, and felt sorry for herself. But I wasn't the old Emma anymore. I picked up my phone and called my assistant. Jessica, I need you to clear my schedule for the last weekend of June. And I need the name of the best dress shop in the city. We're going shopping. I was going to that wedding. Not to cause a scene. Not to beg Daniel to take me back. Not to cry or scream or make a fool of myself. I was going because they had taken enough from me. They had taken my fiancé, my best friend, my social circle, my business contacts. They had taken my trust and my innocence and my belief in happy endings. But they hadn't taken my power. And it was time they understood that. I set the invitation back on the counter and smiled. For the first time in 2 years, I felt something other than pain when I thought about them. I felt anticipation. The old Emma was dead. The new Emma was about to make her debut. And Daniel and Sarah had no idea what was coming. Part 2. The reconstruction. The first step of planning. The morning after I decided to attend the wedding, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't about revenge in the petty sense. This was about justice. About showing them that betrayal has consequences. About reclaiming the narrative of my own life. I made coffee and sat at my dining table with a notebook. If I was going to do this, I needed to be smart. Strategic. The old Emma had been trusting and open. The new Emma would be calculating and prepared. First, I needed information. What were Daniel and Sarah's lives really like now? Social media showed one story, but I needed the truth. I needed to understand their vulnerabilities before I could expose them. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts. There was one name I had avoided for 2 years. Marcus Chun, Sarah's older brother and Daniel's business partner. Marcus had reached out after the betrayal. Sent me a long email apologizing for his sister's actions, saying he was disgusted by what they'd done. I'd never responded. The connection to Sarah was too painful. But now, Marcus might be exactly who I needed. My finger hovered over his name. Was I really going to do this? Yes. Yes, I was. I pressed call. An unexpected ally. Marcus answered on the third ring. Emma. His voice was surprised, cautious. Is that really you? Hi, Marcus. I know this is unexpected. Do you have time to meet for coffee? There was a pause. Of course. When? Today? This afternoon. I'll make time. How about Riverside Cafe at 2? Perfect. See you then. I hung up and stared at my phone. The first move was made. No turning back now. I spent the next few hours preparing. Not just my appearance, though I chose my outfit carefully, professional, confident, successful, but also mentally preparing for what I might learn. Marcus was Sarah's brother, but he was also a businessman. He'd see through any obvious manipulation. At exactly 2 o'clock, I walked into Riverside Cafe. Marcus was already there, sitting at a corner table. He'd changed in 2 years. His hair was graying at the temples now, and there were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. He stood when he saw me. Emma, you look incredible. Thank you. You look good too. I sat down across from him, ordering a latte when the waitress came by. We made small talk for a few minutes. Safe topics. The weather. The city's development. Both of us dancing around the real reason I'd called. Finally, Marcus leaned forward. Emma, I'm glad you reached out, but I have to ask. Why now? After 2 years. I pulled the wedding invitation from my purse and slid it across the table. I received this yesterday. Marcus's expression darkened. They invited you. Those idiots actually invited you. They did. And I've decided to attend. His eyebrows rose. That's unexpected. Are you sure that's a good idea? Probably not. But I'm doing it anyway. I met his eyes directly. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. How are they really doing? Not the social media version. The truth. The truth revealed. Marcus sat back, studying me. I could see him weighing his options, deciding how much to tell me. Finally, he sighed. They're drowning, Emma. Financially, professionally, maybe even emotionally. Though I have less sympathy for that part. My heart rate picked up. Tell me everything. Where do I start? He ran a hand through his hair. Daniel's been making terrible business decisions. After you two split, he lost several major clients. You probably knew that. What you might not know is that he blamed everyone but himself. Started taking bigger risks to compensate. Some paid off. Most didn't. And Sarah? My sister. He shook his head. Sarah convinced Daniel to invest in her business ventures. A boutique that failed within 6 months. A wellness brand that never got off the ground. She's burned through over $100,000 of their money in 2 years. I absorbed this information. They're in debt. Serious debt. Daniel took out loans against the business. Risky loans with predatory terms. He's been juggling payments for months now. Marcus leaned forward again. Emma, I need to tell you something else. Something I probably should have told you 2 years ago. The serious tone in his voice made my stomach tighten. What is it? Daniel was embezzling from the company. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. He thought I wouldn't notice, but I'm the one who manages the books. Marcus's jaw was tight. He was taking money to fund his lifestyle with Sarah. The fancy dinners, the trips, all of it. Money that should have gone to business expenses and employee salaries. The cafe suddenly felt too small. How much? Over 2 years? Nearly $200,000. The pieces fall together. I sat back, my mind racing. This was bigger than I'd imagined. Daniel wasn't just a cheater. He was a criminal. Why haven't you reported him? I asked. Because he's still my business partner. And because... Marcus hesitated. Because part of me hoped he'd get his act together. That he'd realize what he'd done and try to fix it. But he hasn't. If anything, it's gotten worse. Does Sarah know? About the embezzlement? I don't think so. But she knows they're in financial trouble. She's been pressuring Daniel to ask me for money. To buy him out of the partnership at an inflated price. Marcus laughed bitterly. As if I'd give them a penny after what they did to you. An idea was forming in my mind. A perfect, terrible, beautiful idea. Marcus, what if I told you I had a way to solve your problem and address my situation at the same time? He looked at me curiously. I'm listening. You need Daniel out of the business. I need justice for what they did. What if we work together? What did you have in mind? I leaned forward, lowering my voice. You have documentation of the embezzlement, right? Records, evidence. Everything. I've been keeping detailed files. And the wedding is in 6 weeks. Public event. Lots of witnesses. I paused. What if their big celebration became the moment everything fell apart? Building the plan. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You want to expose him at his own wedding. Not just him. Both of them. I want everyone who sided with them. Everyone who thought their love story was romantic instead of disgusting, to see the truth. I kept my voice steady. I want them to understand that actions have consequences. That's bold. Is it wrong? Wrong? Emma, they deserve far worse than public humiliation. Marcus's expression was conflicted. But I need to think about this. The business implications, the legal ramifications. If we do this, we do it right. No room for them to wriggle out or play the victim. I understand. Take your time. We talked for another hour. Marcus told me more details about the company's finances, about Daniel's increasingly desperate behavior, about Sarah's delusions of grandeur. With every revelation, I felt more justified in what I was planning. As we were getting ready to leave, Marcus said, Emma, I have to ask, is this really about justice? Or is it about revenge? I considered the question carefully. Maybe it's both. Does that make me a bad person? No, he said softly. It makes you human. They hurt you terribly. You're allowed to want them to face consequences. I'll wait to hear from you, I said, gathering my things. Give me 3 days. I'll call you. The waiting game. The next 3 days were torture. I threw myself into work, taking client meetings, reviewing designs, anything to keep my mind occupied. But every quiet moment, I found myself wondering if Marcus would actually help me, or if he'd decide family loyalty outweighed justice. On the 3rd day, my phone rang at exactly 9 in the morning. Emma, it's Marcus. Can we meet? I have something to show you. An hour later, I was sitting in Marcus's office downtown. He'd laid out 3 folders on his desk. I spent the last 3 days organizing everything, he said. Financial records, email communications, transaction histories. Everything we'd need to prove Daniel's embezzlement. I stared at the folders. I'm in. What they did to you was unforgivable. And what Daniel's done to our business is illegal. He needs to face consequences for both. Marcus opened the first folder. But we need to be strategic. We can't just show up at the wedding and start making accusations. We need leverage. We need them to confess. How do we do that? Marcus smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. We make them think they're getting what they want. The trap is set. Over the next week, Marcus and I met 4 more times. Each meeting refined our plan, added layers, anticipated their reactions. It was like planning a military operation. The key was making Daniel think he had a way out of his financial problems. Marcus would approach him with a business opportunity, a fake investor interested in buying into the company at a premium price. But the investor would want clean books. No discrepancies. Complete transparency. Daniel would have two choices: confess to the embezzlement and face legal consequences, or try to cover it up. Either way, we'd have him. But what about Sarah? I asked during one of our meetings. She's not directly involved in the business fraud. No, but she's been complicit in spending the stolen money. And Marcus pulled out another folder. I did some digging into her failed businesses. She's been lying to investors, Emma, promising returns she knew she couldn't deliver. It's fraud. Small scale, but fraud nonetheless. The pieces were coming together beautifully and terribly. But there was one element we hadn't discussed. The personal element. My presence at the wedding. I need to be there when it all comes out, I said. I need them to see my face. Emma, if you're there, they might suspect you're involved. Good. Let them suspect. Let them know I'm not the naive girl they betrayed. I met Marcus's eyes. Besides, I RSVP'd yes to the wedding 2 days ago. They already know I'm coming. Marcus laughed. You're more ruthless than I gave you credit for. I learned from the best, I said dryly. They taught me that nice people finish last. An unexpected development. As our planning continued, something unexpected started happening. Marcus and I were spending hours together, and somewhere between reviewing financial documents and plotting strategy, I started seeing him differently. He was intelligent, careful, thoughtful. He listened when I spoke. He respected my anger without trying to diminish it. And he had his own scars from watching his sister destroy someone he cared about. I should have done more, he told me one evening. We'd worked late at his office, and he'd ordered dinner. When I found out about the affair, I should have told you immediately. Instead, I confronted Sarah privately, gave her a chance to end it. That was wrong. You were trying to protect your sister. I was enabling her. There's a difference. He looked at me. Emma, I'm sorry. For not speaking up sooner. For every moment you suffered that I could have shortened. It was the most genuine apology I'd received from anyone connected to the situation. Thank you, I said quietly. That means more than you know. Our eyes met across the desk. The moment stretched. Then Marcus cleared his throat and looked away. We should probably call it a night. Big day tomorrow. Tomorrow was the day Marcus would approach Daniel with the fake investor opportunity. The trap would be set. The bait. I wasn't there when Marcus met with Daniel, but Marcus called me immediately after. He took the bait, Marcus said. His voice was tight with disgust. He actually seemed excited about the opportunity. No guilt. No hesitation. Just started calculating how much money he could make. Did he mention the embezzlement? Not directly. But he got nervous when I mentioned the investor would want to audit the books. Started talking about needing time to organize some records. Marcus sighed. He's going to try to cover it up. I can already tell. That's good for us, right? Attempting to hide evidence makes it worse legally. Yes, and it gives us more ammunition. There was a pause. Emma, are you sure you want to go through with this? Once we start, there's no stopping it. Their lives will be ruined. I thought about that day 2 years ago, walking into my apartment, seeing them together, the months of pain that followed, the business I'd lost, the friendships that had evaporated, the trust I'd never fully recover. I'm sure, I said. They made their choices. Now they live with the consequences. The dress. With 3 weeks until the wedding, I went shopping for a dress. Not just any dress. The dress. The one that would make Daniel realize what he'd lost. The one that would make Sarah seethe with jealousy. The one that would announce I was no longer the broken woman they'd left behind. I brought my assistant Jessica with me. She knew the whole story and was invested in what she called my revenge glow-up. You need something that says, I'm successful, I'm gorgeous, and you made the biggest mistake of your life, Jessica declared as we entered the boutique. We tried on dozens of dresses. Too flashy, too conservative, too desperate. Finally, I found it. Deep emerald green silk. Elegant, but not overdone. It hugged my curves. Curves I'd earned through hours at the gym, and made my eyes look impossibly bright. When I stepped out of the dressing room, Jessica actually gasped. That's the one. Oh my God, Emma. That's absolutely the one. I looked at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was strong, confident, beautiful. Not because of the dress, though it helped, but because of everything I'd survived to get here. I'll take it, I told the saleswoman. The unexpected call. 2 weeks before the wedding, Sarah called me. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken since that one terrible phone call 2 years ago, but curiosity got the better of me. Emma? Oh, thank God. I wasn't sure you'd answer. Sarah, what do you want? I I wanted to thank you for RSVPing yes to the wedding. It means a lot that you can move past what happened. Move past. As if betrayal was something you simply got over. It's an important day, I said neutrally. I wouldn't miss it. Really? Because I was worried. I mean, Daniel thought maybe you were coming to cause problems. There it was. The real reason for the call. They were nervous. Why would I cause problems? I kept my voice light. You two are in love, right? True love that just couldn't be denied. That's what you told me. Yes, exactly. Sarah sounded relieved. I'm so glad you understand. And Emma, I have to tell you, we're doing amazing. Daniel's business is thriving. I'm launching a new venture. Everything has just fallen into place. It's like the universe knew we were meant to be together. Every word was a lie. I knew the truth about their finances, about Daniel's embezzlement, about Sarah's failed businesses. She was performing for me, trying to make me think they'd won. That's wonderful, I said. I'm so happy for you both. We should have lunch before the wedding. Catch up properly. I'm pretty busy with work. Maybe after the wedding. Of course. You're so successful now. I've seen your company's work in magazines. You've really landed on your feet. The condescension in her voice was barely hidden, as if my success was surprising, as if she'd expected me to crumble completely. I have a meeting, I lied. But I'll see you at the wedding. Can't wait. After I hung up, I sat quietly, processing the conversation. They knew I was coming. They were nervous, but arrogant. They thought they'd gotten away with everything. Perfect. The final preparations. The week before the wedding, Marcus and I met one last time. Everything's in place, he said. Daniel's been doctoring the financial records. I have evidence of the original documents and his alterations. The fake investor is ready to pull out at the appropriate moment. And the authorities? I've been in contact with a lawyer friend. The moment we have Daniel's public confession or attempted cover-up, we can move forward with charges. The evidence is overwhelming. I nodded. What about Sarah? I've contacted the people she defrauded in her business ventures. They're ready to file complaints. Once the attention is on her because of Daniel, they'll come forward. We sat in silence for a moment. Emma, Marcus said carefully, I need you to understand something. When this happens, it's going to be ugly. Daniel and Sarah will lash out. They'll try to make you the villain. Say you're bitter, jealous, vengeful. I know, and they might be right. About the vengeful part, at least. He looked at me seriously. Are you prepared for that? I thought about it honestly. Was I vengeful? Yes. Was I bitter? Probably. But was I wrong? They destroyed my life 2 years ago, I said. I'm not destroying theirs. I'm just revealing the truth about what they've done. If that destroys them, it's because they built everything on lies. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay, then let's do this. As I was getting up to leave, Marcus said, Emma, after this is over, regardless of how it turns out, would you want to get dinner? Not to plan revenge. Just dinner. I looked at him, surprised. In all our meetings, he'd been professional, supportive, but careful to maintain boundaries. This was different. Are you asking me out? I am. And I know the timing is terrible, and you probably think I'm crazy, but... He smiled ruefully. I've enjoyed spending time with you. Even under these circumstances. Maybe especially under these circumstances. You're remarkable. Something warm bloomed in my chest. Something that felt dangerous and promising at the same time. Ask me again after the wedding, I said. When all this is over. If you still want to, I'll say yes. His smile widened. It's a date. A potential future date. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, running through every scenario, every possible outcome. By morning, I'd be facing Daniel and Sarah for the first time in 2 years. By afternoon, their world would be crashing down around them. And I would finally have closure. I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago. Trusting, naive, believing that love and loyalty meant something. That woman was gone. But maybe that wasn't entirely bad. Maybe she needed to die so someone stronger could be born. At 3 a.m, I got up and went to my closet. The emerald dress hung there, waiting. I touched the silk gently. Tomorrow, Daniel and Sarah would get married. They'd celebrate their love built on betrayal. They'd smile for photos. They'd dance. They'd think they'd won. And then everything would fall apart. I was ready. Part 3, The Reckoning and Redemption. The morning of the wedding. I woke at 6 on the morning of the wedding. My alarm hadn't gone off yet, but my body knew. Today was the day. I made coffee and sat by my window, watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of gold and pink. Beautiful, peaceful, the calm before the storm. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Ready for today? No turning back now. I typed back. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, you're incredible. See you at the venue. I smiled despite the nervous energy coursing through me. Marcus had become an unexpected gift in this journey. Someone who understood both the pain and the justice. Someone who saw me as I was now, not as I used to be. I spent the morning in careful preparation, hairstyled in soft waves, makeup dramatic but elegant, and finally, the emerald dress. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. This woman was powerful, confident, unbreakable. The woman Daniel had destroyed no longer existed. In her place stood someone stronger. Arriving at the venue. The wedding was at Grandview Estate, a historic mansion with sprawling gardens and a ballroom that cost more than most people's annual salary. Of course, Daniel and Sarah would choose somewhere ostentatious. Image had always mattered more to T.